श्रीनगर की धरती से मैं पूरी दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल उठाना चाहता हूं कि क्या ऐसे गैर जिम्मेदार और रोग नेशन के हाथों में परमाणु हथियार सुरक्षित हैं?
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh calls Pakistan a rogue and irresponsible state. India demands international supervision of the Pakistan nukes. Rajnath says that are these nuclear weapons safe in a country like Pakistan? President Donald Trump claims India has dropped all tariffs against American products. He says and repeats a big claim on zero tariff deal with India. Donald Trump, in fact, slams Apple for expanding operations in India. Uncertainty looms over Russia-Ukraine peace talks, given the fact that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are skipping crucial Ukraine peace talks, even as first direct talks have taken place between Moscow and Kiev in Istanbul. Calls to boycott Turkey and Azerbaijan grow louder in India. Indians are now boycotting Turkey and Azerbaijan because these countries now stand for Pakistan and, more importantly, against India. UAE launches 10-year blue visa for climate leaders. This blue visa is open to Indians that are working in the space of clean energy. Big story that we are first tracking on the show, which is about what exactly is it that Donald Trump has said and what does this mean for the India-US trade. I'm going to try and explain that, given the fact that there's just one line and a couple of sentences that Donald Trump has said about such a complex issue as far as the big claims that he has made, and we're going to try and decode. First up, the big tariff claims that he has said is that India has offered a zero tariff deal as far as US is concerned. What does this mean in terms of which are the products where it's likely to happen? How soon will that happen? What has been the give and take on this? No detail whatsoever. So why exactly is it that this announcement has been made? We're going to decode that. Second, not interested in Apple building in India, must build in the US. Now that's a very direct statement coming in. Remember, Apple is a private company. Its shareholders should be deciding where its products should be manufactured, not US president, especially for a country that is the epitome of capitalism, capitalist interests. But that's another thing that Donald Trump has said. Now I'm going to now talk about the trade statistics that exist. It is about $129 billion, our largest trading partner. The kind of deficit that US runs is the surplus for us, which is at $45 billion, something that is not palatable to the president, simply because his entire campaign is around we need surpluses and not deficits. He then talks about these are the kind of tariffs he imposed, remember, on Liberation Day, 27% plus 10%. It's been on pause right now, and that 90-day window expires early July. And till then, India wants to ensure that it closes a deal. Let's now talk about the key sectors that are in the play. Agriculture, that is a politically sensitive subject, politically significant issue that the BJP and the government may not be in a position to have that much of an elbow room, something that Donald Trump wants. Some of the other sectors, machinery, pharma, electrical, chemical, textiles and iron steel, these are the sectors which are set to be impacted, where give and take has been happening. What does this mean? I want to first play out that soundbite of President Trump and then come back and try and decode what are essentially cryptic sentences about a very complex issue.
We have Apple, as you know, it's coming in. And I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India. And they've offered us a deal where basically they're willing to literally charge us no tariff. So we go from the highest tariff, you couldn't do business in India, we're not even a top 30 in India because the tariff is so high, to a point where they have actually told us, I assume you too, Scott, you were working on that also, that there will be no tariff.
All right, the big questions that we always ask on India Global. First up, what's really behind these repeated tariff claims that Donald Trump has been making? Remember, it's just one side that's making these claims, not India. Remember, it has to be done in a bilateral fashion. The second key question that we are putting forth is, can India really afford to drop all tariffs and duties on American goods? Because this is not just about a single trade deal. It's also about protecting domestic industry, finding that perfect balance. The third, equally important, is what will India's WTO action mean for trade talks? We have actually taken up an issue regarding American steel and aluminium all the way to the WTO. What happens to that complaint? Which sectors will be impacted the most? We put that out, some of those contentious issues. And lastly, what happens to the trade deal that has been in the works? 13th of February is when Prime Minister Modi met Donald Trump. Since then, trade talks have been going on. They've made a lot of progress. What happens to those in the backdrop of this kind of an announcement that's been made? I want to put that out. These questions to Dr. Pralok Gupta from IIFT, Dr. Amitendu Palit, who's joining us, he's from the National University of Singapore, and Peter Cardillo, Chief Market Economist of Spartan Capital Securities. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. I want to start with Dr. Gupta and Dr. Palit. The question I want to ask you is, what do you make of the announcement, and more importantly, what do you think is the kind of impact that the Indian economy will face with a zero tariff on all US goods, kind of a sweeping possibility of a policy action? Dr. Palit, let me start with you.
Thank you, Gaurie, for inviting me on your show. A pleasure to be here with you, as always. I think when two countries negotiate a bilateral trade agreement, it is only expected that they will reduce tariffs on each other's trade. I mean, that is a given. There's nothing really very big or very dramatic about what President Trump has said, number one. The second point is that there are a lot of numbers which can be put out without they actually meaning much. Let us say if it's something like India is removing tariffs on 90% of the trade between India and the United States. What it might mean actually is that 90% of the tariff lines that are being traded between India and the US might actually be removed from tariffs. But out of those 90% tariff lines, only a few might actually be worth significant bilateral trade between the two countries. So while statistically that might appear to be a very big deal, in reality, it really does not make a very big difference. And the third point that I would like to make here is that as far as the US trade policy is concerned, tariffs are being taken as an instrument for serving multiple goals. And
Indeed.
the trade goal is just one of them. We have just come out in the context of President Trump's tariffs of the Indo-Pakistan conflict.
Absolutely. They
there's
serve
a big
all
amount of
interests.
cloud.
Trade is just one
Yeah.
of them. So just hold your thought there, because I want to quickly
Sure.
get in Dr. Gupta with his comments regarding A, the kind of impact that this would have, and B, sir, as I said, this is a bilateral trade negotiation where back and forth is happening. Do you really think that it should just be one side making cryptic sentences, threatening an American company, which should be ideally driven only by its shareholders' interests and not by trying to appease the president?
So, absolutely. Gaurie, I start with your second comment that the threatening American companies to shift their investment or production facility from India to US and making this kind of a statement that zero, I think it's all pressure tactics. And I would say that making any claim that India has offered zero tariff it's too early at this stage, because the deal is neither yet concluded nor yet signed. What is very clear at this point of time that both sides are negotiating a bilateral trade deal. They are having a good engagement. There are positive signals from both the sides that the negotiations are happening in a very nice way. But it is still on the way. So making any claim that a country India has offered
It's premature.
zero tariff across.
It's premature.
It's premature, absolutely.
And should have been avoided.
Just one more thing that President Trump has this history of making some claims which are not supported by facts. If you remember, when our Prime Minister went in February, then they said that the US-India deficit is 100 billion, which is only around 45 to 46 billion dollar. Now also India-Pakistan issue, they said that it's 1,000-year-old between India and
He also said
Pakistan.
1,500 actually. He even said 1,500.
1,000, 1,500, absolutely. So that is also not correct. So he has this history
Actually,
of,
you know, which is an important point, Dr. Gupta, and I want to take that to Peter, which is that these off-the-cuff comments about issues that are so serious in nature, so long-term in nature, which require so much of paperwork to be done, people may not understand that every duty across every product that gets changed, and there is multiple layers of paperwork that has to be done. Peter, why do you think these comments are being made off the cuff? Some would even say random, some would say premature.
Well, I think, President Trump basically throws out a lot of thoughts out to the marketplace, and usually beneath the surface there is some sort of volatility towards it. And I think we saw that with the China deal, when China was saying there were no talks and Trump was saying there were, and then finally they came to some a mutual announcement. And I think this is probably what's happening here with India. There's no doubt in my mind that there will be a trade deal with India, and probably it's going to be one of the first among big nations. Whether or not, we're looking at a one-sided trade deal, I doubt that very much. I don't think India is going to do that. But I would suspect that there is some sort of volatility in terms of maybe certain products having no tariffs, and maybe some will. So I think that's probably going to be the final results.
Absolutely. One needs to also point out that in the wake of all that has happened in the last 1 week or so, there is also a very large section of people who feel that these off-the-cuff comments, speaking when, you shouldn't be, or making comments that cannot be backed by facts, actually do have an impact on a bilateral relationship. Dr. Palit, let me then ask you this question, which is that these comments made about Apple being one instance comes after Apple said that it wants to move its production away from China more into India. India is also a country where the production has crossed 1 lakh crore. In the backdrop of that, the fact is, US is the mecca of capitalism, isn't it? Donald Trump is in fact on a Middle East tour, isn't he? Mecca of capitalism should know better than to say anything that may not be in the best interest of shareholders. Why is he saying this? These are pressure tactics, but will US Inc. give in to those?
Gaurie, you'd know that there was an executive order which was issued a couple of days ago on local manufacturing in the United States, incentivizing local manufacturing without actually giving out any specific terms as to how those will be incentivized. I don't think this is a very big deal, in the sense that this is a continuation of the CHIPS Act and the IRA policies that was followed by the earlier Biden administration. It's just that on this particular occasion, there is a call that as much of American production as possible should be brought back to the United States, which is purely by way of a call. But as you pointed out, I think American businesses are very much conscious about the fact that there is an economics that work in their global production planning and global production establishments. So in that respect, I don't see any possibility of Apple vacating the kind of plans that it has put in motion at this point in time. And as you very correctly said, this could also might mean a tangential signal to the Indian trade negotiators to indicate that, look, don't probably think that Apple and the fact that it is producing in India can be used as a bargaining chip to declare the fact that India is a great market for US businesses. Apple might very well come back to its home, which I think is just a way of spinning a particular narrative, which really doesn't hold much water.
Very quickly, I want to get both Peter as well as Dr. Gupta. Peter, to you, will this narrative sell as far as American companies, corporations are concerned?
Could you repeat that, please?
I'm saying these pressure tactics by US President, will it work for American companies? making them go back to America from India?
Well, I think that's what President Trump wants, but will that happen? I'm not sure. There's a lot of cost factors there. And then, of course, there's another problem. Producing in foreign countries is much cheaper than it is here in the United States, both in terms of labor requirements and also in purchase of manufacturing goods. So whether that is doable, I'm not sure.
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be some companies that
will give in to this. We'll have to give in to this.
United States, but the majority, I think, is not likely to happen.
Absolutely. Very quickly, Dr. Gupta, due to paucity of time, 30 seconds, what happens to the India-US trade talks? Where are they? The pact?
They are progressing well, and it was informed in the media that a ministerial level delegation is going to US. So as I said in my initial remarks, that both sides are negotiating this agreement, and this is progressing well. So that is the only thing that is certain at this point of time.
In the times of uncertainty, that's the only certainty. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this edition of India Global. As far as those trade talks are concerned, it still seems that I'm going to wait for that official announcement to come in from New Delhi. On that note, a quick break. We come back on the other side, talk more about India's demand for an international supervision of Pakistan's nukes. Why? Because no one knows who has the nuclear switch in Islamabad. We come back and talk more. Stay with us.
I think that there's something that's always there that I just need to uncover. Like, I know I'm gonna get there, but I have to be patient with myself. That's probably the scary part for me. And it's okay, like, if you completely pivot and change. You know, you have to be comfortable with that.
When it comes to the beautiful game, we're here for it all. From the grandstands to the grassroots. Barclays has invested millions in community sports since 2001. Supporting the superstars and the future stars. Hey. Because there is no football without grassroots football. Search Barclays Football to find out more.
With BetterHelp, the work is all about the relationship, finding my way to enter into their world, to see the world through their eyes.
Personalised care comes from listening to the client and what they want to bring you. It's for us to just be there for them.
As a therapist on BetterHelp, I think it's really important to let clients know that you see them authentically and in the way that they want to be seen.
We know that living with diabetes can make daily life a challenge, and we're here to help.
I felt very low with the diagnosis and very lonely as well, and embarrassed.
I think people don't necessarily realise the impact that being diabetic can have on you, and the amount of extra decisions you have to make a day through carb counting every single thing you eat.
If you're struggling with the everyday challenges diabetes can bring, become a Diabetes UK member today. Receive this informative welcome pack and Balance magazine.
Balance magazine has been very good in giving me tips to manage my diabetes on a day-to-day basis.
One of the things I was recommended to do was exercise. What motivated me was my love of dance, and I got that back.
Join a community that really understands. Call 0800 035 7605 or go online to become a member for just £3 a month.
I bought cars on finance, so I've made my claim.
If our lenders charge hidden commissions, then I've made my claim.
I could be on thousands.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim. It's so quick and simple.
You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from vehicles bought on finance since 2007, even without the details.
I've made my claim.
Trust myclaimgroup.co.uk.
Claims made simple.
Operation Sindoor is not just a military doctrine. It's a message, it's a statement, and it's a word of caution to Pakistan that any misadventure will lead to a different response, a response that India will define. But will Pakistan learn a lesson? Can Pakistan actually be trusted? That's a question that's being raised by India repeatedly and raised again by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh as he asked, can a rogue nation actually be trusted with nukes? And today we ask, who has the nuclear button in Pakistan? I want to first play out those two important sound bites, first by Defence Minister, followed by External Affairs Minister, and then we come back and ask just that question. What happens to Pakistan's nukes?
पूरी दुनिया ने देखा है कि कैसे गैर जिम्मेदाराना तरीके से पाकिस्तान द्वारा भारत को अनेक बार एटमी धमकियां दी गई हैं। आज श्रीनगर की धरती से मैं पूरी दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल उठाना चाहता हूं कि क्या ऐसे गैर जिम्मेदार और रोग नेशन के हाथों में परमाणु हथियार सुरक्षित हैं? मैं दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल खड़ा करना चाहता हूं।
Our relations, our dealings with them will be bilateral and strictly bilateral. That is a national consensus for many years, and there is absolutely no change in that consensus that dealings with Pakistan will be bilateral. Talks with Pakistan. I think the Prime Minister made it very clear that the only talks with Pakistan will be on terror. That Pakistan has a list of terrorists who need to be handed over. They have to shut down the terrorist infrastructure. They know what to do.
Tara Kartha, former Director, National Security Council Secretariat, joins me on the broadcast. Good to have you, Tara, on the show. I want to start by asking you, what do you make of those very strong, direct statements that have been made by India's top leadership, asking the world needs to now make sure that those nukes in Pakistan actually are in proper hands?
You know, actually, this is something I also felt for a long time, because I don't know any other nuclear state which indulges in this kind of thing which Pakistan does. Apart from terrorism, that is one chapter. The second is every time they feel threatened, they'll start shouting nuclear. This happened in Parakram, it happened after Kargil, it has happened on one more occasion after that when they brought aircraft out, which supposedly for US satellites to see that the aircraft are there. So they keep doing this kind of nuclear, for want of a better word, a tamasha. So it's a kind of cry wolf scenario. I don't know when these guys actually mean it, right? So it's very, no other country, no other nuclear state in the world does this kind of thing. There is a certain stability in what they threaten or don't. Number two is, there is one very serious aspect. See, just after Balakot and things, about a year and a half later, their main strategist, their nuclear strategist, Khalid Kidwai, he came out with this doctrine saying we'll have ranges from 0 to 2,500. Now the 2,500 I can still recognize. What do you mean by 0?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So either it is a person carrying some kind of a device, you know, a terrorist in other words, will then plant it somewhere.
Tara, nothing about Pakistan makes sense. And I guess that's the reason why this question is being asked. I want to then ask you this, that international supervision of Pakistan's nuclear weapons pile is something that the world needs. And how do we ensure that happens?
I think the world should, to my logical reasoning, they should have woken up by now, but they haven't, obviously. I mean, Trump is saying we should all talk together and dinner together. I think we need to raise this, one, at the IAEA, and number two, at the UN, and number three, at the BRICS and other, BRICS, sorry, not BRICS, any, any body which brings together the global South. And that is our job, to get the global South together and raise this, because if there is a nuclear accident, it's not just going to affect us, it's going to affect countries all around India. You know,
exactly.
It's a very dangerous thing. So these facts are known. I mean, the fact that the present DG, I mean, I just heard that the DG ISPR's father was the famous Sultan Bashiruddin, who
US designated global terrorist.
Yes, and he was believed in jinns, and he wanted to have a nuclear weapon for the whole Muslim Ummah community. All that is okay. That is some time ago. fundamentally, their doctrine is at fault.
Yes.
That is the problem. So if as a nuclear state, you don't use that for stability like we do, we use nuclear weapons to prevent war. Pakistan uses nuclear weapons to prosecute war. That is the fundamental problem.
And
So
no amount of global outrage will change that till Pakistan is made to actually act.
Yes.
That is the point. No outrage is going to be enough on that note. Tara, thank you so much for joining me with that perspective. And before we slip into a break, viewers, we have an update, in fact, a reprieve for Georgetown University scholar who was arrested in the Trump administration's crackdown on foreign college students, was released from immigration detention on Wednesday after a federal judge's ruling. He will, of course, now go back to his family, but he still awaits the outcome of his petition against the administration for wrongful detention and violation of the First Amendment and several other constitutional rights. On that note, a quick break. We come back with lots more on the other side, including the latest as far as the Russia-Ukraine talks are concerned. Are they set to be anywhere, or will it be a damn squib? We come back and tell you.
Some people think life slows down in your 50s, but I've got a few rounds left to go. And yeah, I will be retiring in a few years, so it makes sense to plan ahead.
Come on, Mary.
That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. Look, the kids don't need the money, but it's nice to leave something to help with funeral costs and other expenses, so they can spend their money on nicer things. Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period, unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years for full cover. With Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. Come on! And you're covered for the whole of your life, so you can just get on with things. Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Their claims process is really straightforward, so your loved ones will be looked after. Learning more couldn't be simpler and can be done in just a few minutes. Go online or talk to one of their friendly UK team who will chat you through your options in just one phone call.
Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Get covered in minutes with no annoying trips to the doctor. With fixed monthly payments, prices start at just £4.42 a month. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
So stop putting it off and get it sorted. That way you can get on with doing something much more interesting.
To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0800 977 6552 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
What they don't tell you about getting older is how much fun it can be. Enjoying all the things you've worked so hard for. Spending time with the people that really matter. Not to mention, finally finding that precious time for yourself. I don't want anything taking my best years away from me, but like so many people, I've seen the heartbreak that dementia can cause. That's why I'm asking everyone to order this essential free guide from Alzheimer's Research UK. It's called Your Brain Matters. We all know what's good for our heart and our lungs, but do you know how to keep your brain healthy too? Well, this guide tells you how, in 7 steps you can start taking right now, whatever your age. Just ring the number on screen to get your free copy. Inside, you'll find facts and tips that can keep your brain healthy and help reduce your risk of developing dementia. It's advice you can really trust from leading dementia scientists. Read it, keep it, and check back whenever you need to. Order your free copy now. Call Alzheimer's Research UK on 0800 035 5984 or text BRAIN2 to 78866. Think of it as another way of planning for your best years, because your brain really matters.
The on-again, off-again peace efforts have got a leg up, or so it seems. What was meant to be a talk between heads of states to end a war soon has turned into a downgraded discussion between Russia's deputy ministers and some of Ukraine's ministers, with Marco Rubio probably the senior most in the room, who's hoping to end a war that most stakeholders at this stage don't seem that interested in ending. Even for Trump, it seems there's growing frustration due to entrenched interests on both sides, whether it's the Russian side or the Ukrainian side, where the effort is to actually stall. What really is happening right now in Istanbul, where the two sides are meeting for the very first time in 3 years? We're going to decode that. But before that, let's play out these important sound bites of the two warring sides. And then we come back and decode, is something really likely to happen in Istanbul?
Міністерство закордонних справ, мій офіс, військові, наші розвідки, представники всіх розвідок, до речі. І для того, щоб приймати будь-які рішення, які можуть привести до очікуваного справедливого миру. Що стосується високого рівня зустрічі, ми почнемо з зустрічі з президентом Ердоганом, з усією широкою делегацією Туреччини. Ми в контакті з американською стороною, а вони, думаю, також будуть в Туреччині на високому рівні. Подивимось, але...
Сначала Зеленский какие-то там делал заявления, что он требует, чтобы Путин прибыл лично. Ну, жалкий человек, но всем же понятно, кроме, наверное, его самого и тех, кто им кукловодит. Потом ему старшие товарищи объяснили, что не надо так глупо себя вести, и нужны переговоры. Кстати сказать, Запад за 3-4 дня последний как-то отодвинул.
The big questions on this story. Let's reflect that. First up, is the meeting in Istanbul actually going to lead for some sort of a breakthrough in these two talks? Trump and Putin are absent. Zelensky is there, you heard him. Does that mean that this meeting is actually going to have no big impact? Next, will Donald Trump threaten Russia with fresh sanctions? Remember, his credibility is on the line. He said 24 hours, he's frustrated, no movement happening there. Is he now going to resort to the one thing that he has in his leverage, which is the sanctions? And let's ask that to Professor Anuradha Chinoy, former Dean and Chairperson of the Center for Russian and Central Asian Studies at JNU. And we have Vadim Halachuk, who is the Member of Parliament in Ukraine, representing Zelensky's party. And let me start with you, sir. You are one of the affected parties. And in fact, it's only the Ukrainian president who's actually there, not Donald Trump and not President Putin either. I want to understand from you, at this stage, it looks like the outcome from this meeting may be fairly limited.
Greetings. We certainly didn't expect much ever since we've learned that there was no answer to President Zelensky's proposal to meet in person with Putin. The tactics are obviously drag on. The main demand which we have for Russia is the ceasefire, because that's the logic of the whole process. If you have activity, if you have fighting on the level that we do now, any serious peace negotiations are simply impossible. Therefore, we made it very clear about about what we see the roadmap for efficient negotiations. Therefore, we now use every opportunity to show that Ukraine is serious about negotiations. We will do everything that can bring us closer to any meaningful discussions, meaningful negotiations. However, we do see no desire, we see no serious intention from the Russian side to actually enter meaningful negotiations. And this is just another occasion to demonstrate it. But we have a lot to discuss with our partners. We have a lot to discuss with the Americans. We have a lot to discuss with Turkey, who have been very active in bringing closer the parties to this discussion. So we have a lot of work to do.
So let's see whether or not, yeah, let's see whether or not this actually leads to something significant. I'm going to wait for that announcement to come in, if at all it does. Do not forget that President Zelensky is the only one out of the three leaders who've actually there. There's also, because there's these On the sidelines, he would probably like to meet some of those NATO leaders to once again make a case. Professor Anuradha, I want to ask you this, that this comes in after that 30-day ceasefire prerequisite that has been put in by Ukraine and backed by the European allies of President Zelensky. And that also almost is like a deal breaker at this stage for Russia, isn't it? How do you see this meeting in terms of any gains whatsoever? Or do you think that this is actually stalling tactics from both sides?
Well, look, I don't think there's going to be any outcome from this meeting because Ukraine doesn't really want to compromise. Their position is they want a return of all 4 provinces and Crimea. They want to become part of NATO, and they're backed by the European Union, whereas Russia wants to keep the territory it has taken. They've had a constitutional change which makes them part of the Russian Federation. They will not allow Ukraine to become part of NATO, and they want a peace architecture of Europe. So neither side sees eye to eye. In between, there's Trump, and Trump has just said today that unless he meets Putin, there's not going to be any likely outcome. Now, Russia does not even want to have a 30-day ceasefire because for them, because they seem to have the upper hand in the war, they don't want to slow down. And they feel that will give Ukraine time to rebuild its forces and get in more weapons, which in any case, they are getting weapons and time to recruit, etc. So there is a stalemate already, and I don't see this meeting in Turkey really moving forward. It's good that Rubio is there. He would speak to both sides, would carry the messages back. And maybe Rubio, Witkoff, and others would understand both positions again, though they have been understanding and what both sides want and how to get to a middle ground. So no negotiation anywhere in the world can be successful without compromise from both sides. But the positions right now are very hard from both sides. And they see it in very parallel ways. Someone has to find a way out, like maybe removing medium-range missiles from Europe, which threaten Russia, and Russia withdrawing, seeing which part of the territory they can have a line of final control.
Mr. Vadam, respond to that, what Professor Anuradha is saying, that you've got to make some concessions, otherwise you don't have any deal on the table.
We don't believe that we have to make concessions, and we do believe that Russians have again demonstrated any lack of making any concessions on their own. They have produced the ultimatum, and they insist that the ultimatum is the way to go forward. So again, we don't expect much from these negotiations. However, since we did meet before, and we did have some successes, and I mean with some of the members of this delegation, and we did have some success in, for example, prisoners exchange and some other humanitarian issues.
Yes.
Then I guess that would be the point of discussion. But otherwise, looking at the list of the delegates from Russia, there's definitely no hope for any serious breakthrough in peace negotiation.
Indeed. Professor Anuradha, I really have very little time. 30 seconds, please. The downgraded list that came in from Russia was a signal enough, wasn't it?
Correct, because you see, Ukraine has in its constitution, they forbid talks with Russia. So Putin and Lavrov have said that they'll have to change their constitution, because even if there's some agreement, a new government can say it's not valid because...
When I woke up, they said, Alyssa, you've got leukemia. We found out that the chemo wasn't working.
Cancer is still the biggest killer of children in the UK, but innovative new treatments could help beat cancer for more children like Alyssa.
I'm cancer-free now.
Text, call or search to give £3 a month and help build a new children's cancer centre at Great Ormond Street Hospital. So together we can save more lives.
What's wrong with the car?
It's okay, lads. I'm with the AA.
Bombay mix.
Because the AA has more expert patrols across the country, you'll be back on the road in no time. No wonder more people choose the AA. Join today.
If your garage looks like this, you need Tougher Man. A leading supplier of shelving for your home or business. Assembly is quick, easy and boltless. Buy one bay from just $59.99, or you can get 3 bays from only $119.99, saving you nearly £60. Plus, you get a 5-year Storelex steel guarantee. Order now at tougherman.co.uk.
Don't miss Sharp's half-price spring savings. Get Sharp's bespoke fitted furniture for every room, from living spaces to home offices and bedrooms. Many ranges are now half price, including our must-have Manhattan range. Our exclusive Space Plus system means we won't be beaten on space. Plus, you get our 15-year guarantee for total peace of mind. Refresh your home with Sharps this spring. Book your free home design visit today at sharps.co.uk.
Some people think life slows down in your 50s, but I'm just getting started. And I don't want my lot to have to worry about funeral costs. Let them spend their money on nicer things. So I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years, with Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Go online or talk to their friendly
Operation Sindoor has shown one thing, the true face of Turkey and Azerbaijan. And Indians have now had enough. No travel to these countries that are openly anti-India, pro-Pakistan. 6 out of 10 bookings have been cancelled. If Indians don't go to Turkey, there is a direct hit of $300 million. Azerbaijan is more, an extra. But it's the sentiment that matters, viewers, as New Delhi looks to align its strategic interests with that of its growing economic might and continues to take more decisions. On your screens are the latest measures that the government is taking. Turkey firm has now lost security clearances at key places. What does that mean? Let me now get in Ambassador Kaval Sibal, former Foreign Secretary, someone who understands this area very closely. Sir, the fact that there is now a growing concerted resentment against the measures taken by Turkey and Azerbaijan, how do you see that, and where do you see that in the larger scheme of the bilateral relations that India has with these countries?
Well, you know, our relations with Turkey are quite limited. In trade, there is not much Turkish investment in India. The total volume of trade is pretty limited. So while whatever trade there is could be hit, it will not make much of a dent in economic terms to the economy of either side. In terms of tourism, Turkey is a huge hub of international tourism, and whereas India does contribute a few tourists, but at the end of the day, it won't matter very much. Turkey, you know, I've been ambassador there. I understand their mindset. They're pretty arrogant in their own ways. They believe that this was one country which was never colonized, and in fact, it colonized parts of Europe. So there is a great deal of hubris in that country, and they're extremely reciprocal in nature. Now, if we take some steps on the economic side, they'll reciprocate.
The fact that there's now a direction taken by the government for a Turkey company where security clearance has been revoked for a Turkish company that was operating at key airports. How do you see that? Because this is not just about Indians in their personal capacity stopping travel to these countries. There is now a government action that has been taken.
Well, I think this would be the right thing to do because it's a Turkish company. It has access to our key airports, and a lot of information of a sensitive nature can be extracted from their presence at these airports and passed on to Pakistan. To that extent, yes, we may want to be cautious, but I don't know what the contract terms are and whether we can unilaterally end the contracts, whether there are any penalties, whether they will be.
But sir, this is not a single message. It's not a single move. It's the larger message, right? That the government is aware of the anti-India, pro-Pakistan stance of Erdogan, Turkey, and is seized of it.
But you know, look, we've been tolerating Turkey interference in our internal affairs a great deal, and we've not been hitting back. Because our approach so far has been is that if we want to be actually a player in West Asia, then we must also we must touch base with all the principal countries that influence developments there, and have a dialogue with them, have an understanding with them, so that they understand our policies and value our role. Which is why, in addition to Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, of course, Jordan, Turkey cannot be ignored. That was what our thinking was, because Turkey plays a very, very vital role. Look at what's happening in Syria, what's happening in Iraq. Also their relationship with Iran, that's a different story. Then Turkey and Saudi Arabia have been at loggerheads for a long time. So this was why we stayed our hand and did not actually reciprocate or react to or retaliate to the provocations by Turkey. For example, we've never raised the Northern Cyprus issue. They talk about Kashmir. We can easily retaliate by saying that you are an illegal occupation of Northern Cyprus. No country in the world has recognized their occupation of Northern Cyprus, apart from Turkey itself. They are bombing Iraq, the Kurdish people in Iraq. Look at what they've done in Syria. They've occupied parts of Syria. Look at what they've done to their own Kurdish population.
Indeed.
Over the years, actually grossly violated their human rights and have been in a civil war with them for a long time. We have never raised these issues because we didn't think it was necessary. On the other hand, Erdogan lately, initially no, because he came to India and all that.
Yes.
Lately, he's become very Islamic oriented in his thinking.
Absolutely.
And he's supporting Pakistan on the basis of the Islamic network. He intervenes on the Kashmir issue. He's the only leader who raises the Kashmir issue, mentions Kashmir in the UNGA. Now, of course, Azerbaijan for the first time has done that. Otherwise, Turkey is in the OIC. Turkey takes the lead in all the terrible resolutions against India. But we have never reacted. So it's time that we reacted and showed our teeth a little bit so that Turkey takes note that it cannot be that they can do what they want vis-a-vis Pakistan and also harm them and this and that. So I'm glad that some steps are being taken. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ambassador Sybil, for giving that perspective. At the end of the day, Turkey wants to play the game of being the leader of the Muslim world. But those measures, those positions are now going to hit back at Turkey and Ankara, given that New Delhi is taking a position. We're speaking about Middle East, and I'm going to now turn attention to President Trump's third and final leg of his Middle East trip. It's been a lot of noise about business deals, unusual geopolitical moves made as well. Sanctions on Syria have ended. Billions of dollars of investments are being talked about, something that President Trump's domestic audiences are likely to be happy. But what are those exact concrete big gains? That is the big question. I'm going to put that out to Aziz Al-Ghashian, who's joining me live. He's the Associate Fellow with Arab Gulf States Institute. Thank you so much, Aziz, and I want to put that question to you, just that. What exactly are those concrete big gains that Trump is going to take back, not right now in his Qatari jet, but maybe later?
Well, thank you for having me. I think the gains that he's going to take is in investment. I think this is clearly why he's here. But I think, you know, it's not just about, it's worth looking at kind of investment from a particular angle. You know, it's not just a one-way kind of investment. And United Arab Emirates, where he just landed probably an hour ago.
Live visuals, we are playing that out for our viewers. He's in Abu Dhabi, and those visuals are, in fact, live on our screens. But yes, go ahead, Aziz, finish your point.
Yeah. So it's also orchestrating and facilitating investment from these countries or receiving investment from the United States into these countries, because all these countries now are quite embroiled and invested in restructuring their own economy, and a lot of it is about attracting foreign direct investment. So I think the business delegation that he has brought with him, especially in Saudi Arabia, speaks to the massive theme of this tour, which is really investment and jobs. All these countries also have a nation-first approach. And particularly, I think Saudi Arabia and the United States, you could see a convergence of this meeting of Saudi first and an American first approach. So I think this is clearly where the emphasis is going to be. It's on trade and it's on investment, most importantly.
What about geopolitics?
Well, as you probably alluded in your question, the biggest geopolitical outcome of this was the sanctions relief, or the declaration of sanctions.
What about the Abraham Accords? What about Israel?
Let's not talk about the Abraham Accords yet. It's about the sanctions, and this is the most significant and most pressing question. The Abraham Accords is all optics and rhetorical showboating and rhetorical point scoring for Donald Trump. Yeah, he doesn't care about Israel and he doesn't care about Palestinians. He is the person that brought up this deal. The issue for the region is the Syrian file. That's the thing that came out of this. And in my opinion, I think the fact that he declared that he's going to remove all sanctions and normalize relations with Syria is a very significant step. It's a very welcomed step. However, it's a lot more difficult than we think it is. It's still early days. Now, to speak about the Abraham Accords, he is trying to bring this thing, but the environment is so unconducive. Israel has made itself into really a pariah. And I won't say Israel because there are people that in Israel that do want peace. It is Netanyahu who has made Israel very toxic. And he knows that. And that's why what he alluded to in his speech.
This is not about Netanyahu. This is not about Netanyahu. This is about Donald Trump. 30 seconds, Aziz, I want to ask you this. What do you think is going to be his biggest gain when he goes back? 10 seconds, please. Yes, what do you think?
A huge investment. That's all he's going to do.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Aziz, for joining me on India Global. Completely timed out on this edition. Thank you so very much for watching this.
This is an important message for people living with diabetes from people living with diabetes.
When I was experiencing the symptoms of diabetes, I didn't know what was going on.
You go on the internet and it's full of horror stories.
I didn't understand about carbs, I didn't understand.
This is an important message for people living with diabetes from people living with diabetes.
When I was experiencing the symptoms of diabetes, I didn't know what was going on.
You go on the internet and it's full of horror stories.
I didn't understand about carbs, I didn't understand about blood glucose levels.
That's why the support I get as a Diabetes UK member is so important.
You can become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month. When you do, you'll receive a practical guide specific to your type of diabetes and a copy of Balance magazine 4 times a year. Plus, you'll help support research that could lead to better treatments for all types of diabetes.
As members, we're all working it out together.
Call 0800 144 5410 or go online to become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month. Join us now because membership can help you learn to live better with diabetes.
It's so quick and simple.
You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from vehicles bought on finance since 2007, even without the details.
I've made my claim.
Trust myclaimgroup.co.uk.
Claims made simple.
Sadly, animal cruelty has reached an appalling high.
It's the worst animal rescue emergency in our recent history, and we urgently need your help. The RSPCA is the only charity in England and Wales dedicated to animals of every kind. Without us, those facing serious abuse and neglect would simply not be saved. Like you, we can't bear to think of them suffering. That's why, despite the high numbers, we must reach them before it's too late. If you can help us carry on this vital work with a monthly gift, please call or text the number on screen now. Anything you can give would help so much. It'll help us answer more calls. It'll help us rescue more animals in danger and help provide them with the urgent medical treatment, food and loving care they need.
This is an important message for people living with diabetes from people living with diabetes.
When I was experiencing the symptoms of diabetes, I didn't know what was going on.
You go on the internet and it's full of horror stories.
I didn't understand about carbs, I didn't understand about blood glucose levels.
That's why the support I get as a Diabetes UK member is so important.
You can become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month. When you do, you'll receive a practical guide specific to your type of diabetes and a copy of Balance magazine 4 times a year. Plus, you'll help support research that could lead to better treatments for all types of diabetes.
As members, we're all working it out together.
Call 0800 144 5410 or go online to become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month. Join us now, because membership can help you learn to live better with diabetes.
I bought cars on finance, so I've made my claim.
If our lenders charge hidden commissions, then I've made my claim.
I could be on thousands.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim. It's so quick and simple.
You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from vehicles bought on finance since 2007, even without the details.
I've made my claim.
Trust myclaimgroup.co.uk.
Claims made simple.
Sadly, animal cruelty has reached an appalling high. It's the worst animal rescue emergency in our recent history, and we urgently need your help. The RSPCA is the only charity in England and Wales dedicated to animals of every kind. Without us, those facing serious abuse and neglect would simply not be saved. Like you, we can't bear to think of them suffering. That's why, despite the high numbers, we must reach them before it's too late. If you can help us carry on this vital work with a monthly gift, please call or text the number on screen now. Anything you can give would help so much. It'll help us answer more calls. It'll help us rescue more animals in danger and help provide them with the urgent medical treatment, food and loving care they need. I promise we will never give up trying to save every animal we can, but we need your help now more than ever. I can assure you, your gift will help save animals' lives every day. Please call 0800 234 6025, text SAVE to 78866, or visit our website to start your monthly donation today. Thank you.
Some people think life slows down in your 50s, but I'm just getting started. And I don't want my lot to have to worry about funeral costs. Let them spend their money on nicer things. So I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years, with Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Go online or talk to their friendly UK team in just one phone call. Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. And no annoying trips to the doctors either.
Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Now I'm with Cover Today, I can get on with something much more interesting.
To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0800 470 4474 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
be sent to a temporary prison as well. The Chief Justice in fact said that as many as 1,000 trees may have been felled and they could not take it lightly, to which Dr. Abhishek Singhvi said that it was 147 trees that had been cut, and he also said three things. One, that no activity was going on in Kanchagachibowli as of now, and two, that he should be given an opportunity to say that the IT park and ecology could go together, to which once again the Justice in fact said that we are for sustainable development and do not believe that tree felling is the way forward. Counsel K. Parmeshwar brought up the issue of the FIRs against the college students, the HCU students who had been the whistleblowers in this particular case, but the court said that they must approach an appropriate court and not, the Supreme Court was not willing to take up the hearing in that particular case. Counsel Parmeshwar also pointed out that a Forest Department ground report had said that 60% of the area that had been cleared was either moderate or a very dense forest area.
Well, important facts there. Joining me for a quick political face-off this evening, Kishank Manne of the BRS and Kumbam Srinivasa Reddy of the Congress. First to you, Mr. Srinivasa Reddy. Every hearing in the court seems to be bringing more embarrassment to the government, if I may say so. The question again is if it was hasty action and whether restoration of the felled trees will even be possible now.
Good evening, Raghav. Today the matter has come up before the Supreme Court, and definitely one thing for confirmed is that environmental protection is not negotiable. Definitely the state government is also to for the protection of the environment. We are very clear on that subject. That even earlier also when the government wanted to go ahead, they said that it would be on a sustainable development model, that this project would be taken up. But for unforeseen reasons, this project has got stopped. Now the Chief Minister has also stated probably in mid-April that if required, there would be an eco park in that area, and if the sustainable development model is not accepted. In the Supreme Court, we have filed a counter today stating the state's stand on this subject. So I don't think it would be much. It would be, since the matter is sub judice, I don't think it is better for me not to talk much on the subject because once the matter is in the court, we'll have to abide by what the court says. Right now, what I would say is that the Congress party is committed for the protection of environment and will definitely take up the model if permitted in a sustainable way, or it would be an eco park. That is what is the stand of the government as of now. As regards the afforestation or the deforestation, which the Supreme Court was saying today that so many trees have been felled, the state government will definitely look into the matter, and the officials of the government need not be, bought into the picture because, okay, they are on record. But definitely the government is trying to restore the ecology and the flora and fauna in whatever possible way.
Right. Kishank Manne, you heard the Congress spokesperson there saying that the government is acutely conscious of protecting the environment. The question being raised before the court as well by the counsel for the government is that they would like to demonstrate that an IT park as well as ecology can go hand in hand. Will politics be the one that tips the balance in ensuring that the environment as well as an IT park can coexist together?
Well, Veera, there is an issue here. In the last hearing in the Supreme Court, the government was asked a clear plan of afforestation and how would they restore the trees which were felled overnight by the Congress government. And today, they still come up with no plan, and no plantation or no restoration has been taken up. Number one. Number two, the intent, the malice attitude of the Congress government has to be questioned, because today officials are being blamed. Officials are being scapegoats, not just the chief secretary in this issue of the Kanchagachibowli, but in fact here, when it comes to the Hydra also, Honorable High Court has reprimanded that why was it that bulldozers are being used to demolish houses only on the weekend. You see, Supreme Court points out the same thing over a long weekend, wherein this Kanchagachibowli, huge JCBs were used on a weekend when it was a holiday. And here in Hydra also the same is pointed out. The point is, Chief Minister Revanth Reddy has been making official scapegoats. There is a larger political issue also. His own cabinet ministers are targeted during slander campaigns in his mouthpieces. His own chief minister office is sent through a propaganda through WhatsApp by their social media teams. His own Congress in charge, Meenakshi Natarajan, is being questioned in their own mouthpieces, and now officials. And recently we have seen how Chief Minister Revanth Reddy Garu has abandoned the ship that he cannot run the administration. Why should officials face over the false policies or the failed policies of Revanth Reddy is our straight question. Today, if Supreme Court has clearly stated that temporary prison to the Chief Secretary, isn't it Mr. Revanth Reddy who should take the blame actually? Why the officials?
Respond to that, Srinivasa Reddy. Straight question from Krishank Manne. 30 seconds for your response.
First of all, I would not like to agree that the Congress government is doing this, but and the processes have been followed. It is not as though the process has not been followed. As the court has asked whether the permissions for the tree felling have been taken or not. In Telangana, we have the Volta Act. Under the Volta Act, there have been permissions which have been taken. And that is what has been reported. And as far as afforestation is concerned, definitely there has to be a plan, and no tree is planted during summers. I hope that that's some common sense which everybody understands. And after the rainfall, whenever it is after immediately when the first rains come, definitely there would be afforestation. It is not something which can be done just planting and just leaving it like that. Okay. If you do something, it has to be done scientifically. That is the reason there is a plan being prepared, and based on that, according to the plan, it would be going ahead. And as regards what's happening in the Congress party, internal affairs that somebody is targeting, is it proven that the mouthpieces of the Chief Minister talking against the others? That is not the, when we are talking about a subject, I do not think that is a subject to be discussed over here. It is a separate subject for that.
All right. Krishank Manne, respond to that. 30 seconds to your final response on the response given by Mr. Reddy.
Well, I wish the council of the Congress government would have said the same what Mr. Reddy tried to say here. Because the council there came up with a reason saying that they are still on with the IT park as well as ecology. Here you say that you are choosing it for rainy season, XYZ. This could be your escaping point, but that was not the answer at the Supreme Court. You are still adamant because you have mortgaged it for 10,000 crores. And the fact is, the whole of TGIIC is being kept for sale. In the adjacent area, Veera, they are now scouting out to how auction lands. Okay, that is again a different debate. But here, you are not going by the Central Empowered Committee. You are not going by the guidelines of what directions the Honorable Supreme Court has given. You are still defending because you have mortgaged it, and that is why you are adamant that you want an IT park there. I rest my case.
All right. All right. You say you rest your case. 10 seconds. Last response from you, Mr. Reddy.
As they say, TGIIC is auctioning properties. What was the previous government doing? Where will, when you are looking for development in the state, definitely some land has to be developed and it has to be auctioned, and then only investment and employment comes. We cannot say that your
you were against that, right?
Is up for option. What did the previous government do? Have they not auctioned land?
You were against that. How are you supporting it now then? How are you doing it now then?
So there is a difference in stand when you're in power and when you're in opposition. Perhaps that's the truth in terms of taking protests against issues. But thanks very much to both of you for joining us here. I've run completely out of time on that discussion. Now to our special focus this evening on the rare presidential reference to the apex court that has sparked off another fierce face-off between opposition-ruled states and the centre, or is about to. President Murmu asked the apex court its opinion on whether the court can invoke its inherent powers and impose timelines and manner of conduct for governors and the president. The reference comes against the backdrop of the recent verdict of the apex court in the case where Tamil Nadu had challenged its governor's actions. The court had ruled that assent of a governor was deemed to be given for a bill if there was no action within 3 months. That verdict was seen as a victory for opposition ruled states which have had confrontations and run-ins with Raj Bhavans in various places. The president's reference, which raised 14 questions before the court, said there were quote-unquote conflicting judgments of the Supreme Court on whether the assent of the president under Article 201 was justiciable or not. The questions included even whether a governor is bound by the advice of the Council of Ministers, amongst other constitutional points that were raised. Strong reactions came in from Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, who alleged that the reference had sinister intent to undermine the constitution and federalism, and called for opposition states to unite on the issue. A quick political face-off up ahead on this, but first listen in to senior advocate Siddharth Luthra.
This reference, to my mind, is to determine what is the way going forward. To what extent will the Supreme Court direct governments, governors and presidents to act, and to the extent that they will determine and sit over the jurisdictions of governors and presidents. The issue today is, can a governor, and that is something which will have to be answered by the court, can a governor or any other, or the Honorable President, sit over a legislation, and can it render governance null and void? The issue here is not just about the powers of the president and the governor, the center and the state. It's a federalism issue. It is also an issue about how we are going to deal with the rights of the citizen to have governance.
Well, it's an important case constitutionally. Joining me live this evening, A. Saravanan of the DMK, a lawyer himself, and Anurag Naidu, who's an observer who has taken a stand in favor of the centre and the BJP on this issue. Remember, politics on one side, the other part is a constitutional face-off. Saravanan, the president is well within her constitutional rights, some would argue, to raise the questions before the apex court. In fact, the reply of the court could well establish and even perhaps reiterate or give greater clarity on contentious issues. Why bring a political opposition to it at this stage?
Yeah, the question is not weird that whether the president has the power or not. Definitely the president has the power under Article 143 to seek an opinion, the advisory opinion, invoke the advisory opinion of the Supreme Court. But for what reason? That is the most important question. If you look at the questions framed by the president, they all look very say juvenile, in the sense that, you know, a first-year law student would be able to answer that. We don't need a Supreme Court reference to answer those questions. Everything is very clear in Article 200. And when there is a judgment by the two-judge bench which has made everything clear, if they are aggrieved by the judgment, try to get a review or just wait until it is overturned by a superior bench. Please take that judgment. You can't, if you don't like that judgment, that too by the Supreme Court, you cannot, just because you are the ruling party, you cannot allow the president to invoke. See, everybody is aware that the judgment given by the two-judge bench is binding precedent. And whatever this opinion, this reference made by the president is not going to overturn the judgment, or it is not going to have any impact on the consequences made by the judgment. So why are they doing this now? They are doing this now so that they are giving a figment of relief to the governor. The governor is shamelessly sitting in his post even after an indictment by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has said extraneous considerations. The governor has acted under extraneous considerations. When a constitutional court rebukes another constitutional authority in such dire terms, is he allowed to continue? This is allowed. This is filed only to give a leeway to the governor, to give a figment of relief to the governor, ensure that his tenability is there for him to continue as a governor. There is nothing to it. A bare reading of Article 200.
Yeah, I think more than getting into the legal nuances and the legal tug of war, what I would probably say is this is the time where our integrity, to uphold the respect to the highest chair of this country. How much do we respect the opinion? I mean, look at how Her Excellency has acted in this matter. She's not given any, I mean, of course, it is well within the power of the president to also overrule things as the chair may seek so. But she has chose to seek the opinion of the courts in this matter, not give a unilateral direction. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Whereas the courts outrightly undermine the power which is given by the Constitution to this constitutional authorities like the governors and the presidents, outrightly demeaning their power in a blatant broad daylight. And that is where the entire questions came in. Was the conduct correct? The purpose of the reason why the courts are willing to do that is not under question. What's under question is the discourse, and the question is, the way it was done. Are you not, Mr. Saravanan, in favor of having this debate in the parliament? Are you not in the favor of, passing this through the, of course, legislative assembly, you can also pass resolutions, give recommendations to the center. There is a democratic process in place. Why are you not interested in the democratic processes and we're willing to seek, some kind of coverage from the courts?
Anurag, Saravanan's point is very clear that there is a judgment of the two-judge bench. If you have a grouse with it, go to a higher bench of the Supreme Court. Why use a presidential reference which cannot undermine or overturn the judgment of a two-judge bench at this stage? He says it is only, his accusation is it is only purely to make sure that Tamil Nadu governor's position is tenable.
Who's using? Tamil Nadu is not the only state in the country, Veera. You need to understand, president is not. I mean, are you saying that president is acting on somebody's direction here? I mean, that is something we need to introspect. The president, as the highest share of the country, is acting because there is a legitimate question. The vice president himself had to voice out his opinion. And of course, how long can the president keep quiet, which is the interest of the country and the people and the system? I mean, it is a duty to intervene in some form. And this is very legitimate, and it is very graceful of her to,
respond to this.
To ask for an opinion.
See, it's very, very basic knowledge that the president does not act on their own accord. They have to act under the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. So, just because it says that it is a presidential reference, it doesn't mean that it is the president who wants clarity. It is the union government which wants clarity. There is no discretion to the president or the governor in any matters. They have to only act as per the aid and advice on the Council of Ministers. So, it is very, very clear that it is the BJP which is doing this. And the question, there are two aspects to this. One is, why a reference? The second thing is, if you look at the way the questions are framed, we are thinking whether we are going 100 years back. If these questions are answered in the affirmative, we will be looking at the Government of India Act 1935, where the British governors were given unbridled powers, overriding the constitutionally, democratically elected chief ministers of that time. We did away with all that with the advent of the Constitution. And all these questions, the questions that are raised now, have been answered by the Supreme Court in the last 70 years in n number of judgments. Again, just like that, cite 100 judgments. Shamsad Singh case is the landmark one, and several cases they have found out. They have given a clear verdict as to what is the power of the governor. The governor is a rubber stamp. He's a postmaster. He's a yes man. This is the tone and tenor of the judgment of the last 70 years. And now, so why would you go for a reference?
So what's wrong in seeking clarity on it? It might just reiterate the point you're making.
Yes, see, clarity, we need clarity when there is a confusion. When there is no confusion, when all the judgments in the last 70 years clearly point out to one interpretation.
Anurag Naidu, the point Saravanan is making is that there is clarity. You are seeking clarity to create confusion. Respond.
Exactly.
Veera, we have seen for the last 1 or 2 months, there have been several debates. Newspapers are filled with opinions. Newspapers are filled with articles. Why do we have so much of things in the public domain when there is clarity? Mr. Saravanan might have clarity, but the people of India, by and large, do not have the clarity. That's why we are having shows in the interest of the people, because people want to listen, and hear about these kind of opinions. And if Mr. Saravanan is confident about the courts being in one favor or one direction, I think you should celebrate. I think if now the courts reply, upholding what they believed earlier, I think it ends the story. And Mr. Saravanan should celebrate. I think why should he get nervous? And I think the larger question is, why do we not want to, and why do we want to on air, call it time and again, rubber stamp, rubber stamp. Where it is written rubber stamp? Please show me, Mr. Saravanan, in which books of law it is written that the governor is a rubber stamp.
Saravanan, just respond 10 seconds to you. Set the record straight with the judgment.
Yes, we call him a rubber stamp so that people will understand easily. We want people to understand. When we say the governor acts on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, the common man will not be able to understand.
We see him as a conscience keeper.
He's a rubber stamp. The governor is a rubber stamp.
All right, we leave that It's a constitutional matter. There are judgments, as Saravanan says, which have outlined the role of the governor in terms of this. But the presidential reference could perhaps spark off another constitutional conversation on this, as well as a political face-off. We'll keep our focus on it. But thanks to the two of you for joining me here this evening on the Southern View. From that constitutional face-off to caste tensions in Pudukkottai district of Tamil Nadu, strong observations from the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court, which is hearing a petition on the denial of temple entry to Dalits and subsequent caste clashes in Pudukkottai district, observing that it's painful that we have discrimination against Dalits even 80 years after independence. The court asked if the collector and authorities had gone in disguise to seek the truth and reality. The petition alleges severe bias against Dalits in the filing of police complaints. On the 5th of May, a Dalit residential area was vandalized after a clash with caste Hindus over entry into a temple dispute. The administration claimed that Dalits were allowed inside the state-administered temple after peace committee meetings. NDTV's Sam Daniel, who's been following this very closely, joins me live now. The orders, we understand, Sam, will come later in this case. Two parts to the petition. One is, of course, the fact that demanding temple entry and ensuring entry into temple for Dalits, not just here, but in other places. But the other is about the serious allegations that have been made against the police in terms of filing the cases. What are the facts that emerged from this hearing today?
That's right,
Go ahead, Sam.
That's right, Veera Raghav. A few things became very clear today. One, the collector, at least in the case of Pudukkottai, did not visit the place where the clashes took place, although it's mandated according to the SC/ST Act for the collector to be there. And in terms of the compensation, the court has found that meager compensation was allotted, not in tune with the quantum of damages suffered in terms of property losses to the houses, and in terms of others like vehicles and cars and motorbikes, and no cases registered in terms of stringent penal provisions under the SC/ST Act, and not all part of the mob who came to attack Dalits have been named in the FIR, and that's why the court has directed the police to submit the CCTV images for 4 days from the area where the clashes took place. And false cases also have been booked against the victims in the case of villages at Vadakadavu in Pudukkottai district, and orders are likely tomorrow. In terms of ground realities, the government continues to claim that there is no such discrimination. It points out that in the case of a temple in Karur, it's owned by a private group, and they don't even collect funds from Dalits to run the temple chariot, which the judge found is discriminatory, right, saying that if you take the chariot just around the temple, it's fine, but if you choose to take it to other places and then avoid one particular hamlet where Dalits live, that is gross discrimination. And the collector has immediately agreed to visit the place, and even not collecting money from the Dalit groups, the court has found discriminatory, and the court has advised collectors to stop being white-collar officials, but to go to the areas in disguise so that they can unravel such discriminations prevalent even now.
Right, important points there. Of course, an important case there reflecting the social realities of caste, disturbing social realities of caste, as the court has observed. Thanks very much there, Sam Daniel. And finally this evening, if you think you've seen it all in Thieves, well, think again. There was a naked man who was robbing mobile phones in Bengaluru's Bommanahalli area. Fortunately, we morphed that video. He's been at it stark naked and was even caught on CCTV cameras before he was finally apprehended by the Bengaluru police. So beware, he has no clothes, but he did away.
No child should suffer the torture of trachoma, but so many are in pain right now. Nananga's lashes have turned inwards. They rip and tear away at his eyes. Pomelo's sight could be gone forever. He's just 3 years old. Kofanga screams for his mother. His eyes are so infected that he can't even see her. For so many children in the world's poorest countries, trachoma is torture. It's a painful infection often spread by flies, and it's destroying children's eyesight. But it could be stopped if you help today. by calling 0800 038 4926 and giving £1 a week to Sightsavers. You can help make sure children get the treatment they desperately need. You'll help us bring them the medicines and the care that can treat infections. And that means you'll be helping to save children from the torture of trachoma and a life of blindness. Please help us reach them. Call 0800 038 4926. Text C13 to 82727 or go online and give just £1 a week now. Because we need you to help save the sight of children like Nananga. We need you to help save them from the torture of trachoma.
Just sorted my guaranteed over 50 plan with Sun Life. There's even a cash payout. Nice one. It's given me the confidence to look after myself. I've started learning jiu-jitsu.
Come on! Search Sun Life Plan today and get a free gift card.
It feels good knowing that your future's in hand. Evlo can offer you a loan from £1,000 to £15,000. Get your conditional decision in minutes.
For such gentle souls, working donkeys in the Middle East lead terribly hard lives. For such trusting animals, donkeys are too often abused and exploited. These sensitive, loyal animals often suffer the cruelest pain. This is the hard, painful life that donkeys in Egypt, the West Bank, Israel and Gaza have to endure. Too often, it's not only a hard life, it is also a short one. But there is something you can do to make their hard lives much easier. Please call Safe Haven for Donkeys on 0800 144 5802 or go online and give a life-saving gift of just £2 a month. Safe Haven for Donkeys is dedicated to transforming lives in the region. Your gift means our mobile vet clinics can provide emergency treatment for injured donkeys. We heal wounds and ensure donkeys aren't suffering. We also work with local communities, helping them to look after and cherish their donkeys. You'll help make sure there's always a place at our sanctuaries for abandoned and abused donkeys who have nowhere else to turn. Please call 0800 144 5802, text SAFE4 to 84902, go online or scan the QR code and give just £2 a month and help change a donkey's life today.
When Tony passed, we wanted to celebrate him his way. All he ever spoke about was bite this, bite that. I'll never forget our first date. Huge grin on his face as he rode up on that big noisy thing. And that's exactly the way he'd want to be remembered.
At Co-op Funeral Care, we know everyone is different. That's why we offer funeral plans to funeral services that are personal, every step of the way.
This year marks the 80th anniversary of VE Day, and to commemorate this historic occasion, we're pleased to announce the official release of a new 50p coin. Celebrating the day that marked the end of World War II in Europe and brought long-awaited peace to our nation, this official new 50p coin has been plated in 24-karat gold and can be yours for the introductory price of just $2.99. Postage is free. Demand for this new 50p coin is certain to be high, so call 0800 988 1468. Head to veday50p.tv or scan the QR code on screen to secure this valuable keepsake for you and your family. The stunning design features a young couple embracing in the streets while the VE Day celebrations continue around them. This 50p is the first in a new series of 50p's highlighting the key moments and events of VE Day. So don't delay. Head to veday50p.tv now.
Attacked and abused online because India's top diplomat just did his job and articulated the government's position on pausing hostilities. Now, this is about dignity of women and how we perceive women, and this is also about dignity of a nation. We will discuss this episode today, what really happened and who needs to be held accountable and what is the impact of this on public discourse. We will be joined by a panel of guests, but first, here are some reactions.
दिव्या सिंह के बारे में इन्हें मालूम नहीं कि वो कौन है और न एयर ऑपरेशन के जो इंचार्ज थे एयर मार्शल अवधेश कुमार भारती न उनके बारे में मालूम था, वरना इन्हें भी गाली दे। व्योमिका सिंह हरियाणा की जाकर और एयर मार्शल भारती पूर्णिया के यादव हैं। तो तीनों तो पीडीए के थे। एक को मुसलमान समझ के गाली दी, एक को राजपूत समझ के कुछ नहीं किया और भारती के बारे में जानकारी नहीं थी। और जब पेपर में आ गया तब ये सोचने को विवश है कि अब क्या करें।
विंग कमांडर व्योमिका सिंह का अपमान केवल व्योमिका सिंह का अपमान नहीं है, वो भारत की बेटी का अपमान है, हर भारतीय का अपमान है। विंग कमांडर व्योमिका सिंह सिर्फ एक नाम नहीं, वह भारत के गौरव और महिला सशक्तिकरण और नए भारत की उड़ान का प्रतीक है। जाति के आधार पर हमारी वीरांगना का अपमान कर समाजवादी पार्टी ने अपनी नीच मानसिकता और महिला विरोधी सोच को उजागर करने का काम किया है।
और समाजवादी पार्टी के नेता का ये बयान इस बात को प्रमाणित करता है कि इनके मन में, इनके जहन में, इनके दिल दिमाग में दलितों के प्रति कितना नफरत भरी हुई है। व्योमिका सिंह मां भारती की वो बहादुर बेटी